Okay. Okay, so back at it. So this is everything we had before. I've just added a couple new things and worked through what those are. So let's just take a look at the weight group. You got 6 people. There's the years of education that are listed. Your X bar 1 is just the mean for your weight group. Your S and your S squared, this is going to be your standard deviation and your variance. And you're not going to need those for the calculation, but I just included those to show you that, remember, one of the assumptions is that the variation has to be approximately equal, and it is. But you won't have to use the standard deviation or variance in the calculations. Okay? Now, the sum of x1, 78. So think about what that, what that is. The sum of all the x's from group 1. All this is the sum of all the values for that group. So it's 12 plus 12 plus 14 plus 12 plus 12 plus 16 is 78. So basically what the sum of x1, sum of x2, sum of x3, let's look at the x3. All that says is that taking all 6 of the Asian people from our sample, they have a total number of years of education of 100, right? Person 1 has 16, person 2 has 18, person 3 has 16, 14, 16, 20. You add them all up, you get 100. So across these 6 people, there's 100 years of education, okay? And you would have had to know that to calculate the mean because you add them all up and you divide by 6, and 100 divided by 6 is 16 and 2/3, 16.67. Okay, so that's just the sum of all the values. Now the sum of all the x squared. Let's think about what that means. So the sum of x1 squared. So where did that number come from? Well, that is, look here. What people are gonna want to do with that is, let me flip over to my calculator real quick. Sorry. Okay. What people are gonna want to do is take that 78 and square it. So 78 squared. And that's not how it's calculated. So the sum of, it's not the sum of the total squared, it's the sum of the squared values. Let me say that again. It's not the square of the sum. So it's not, you don't add up all the years and square that. You take each individual year, square it, and sum it up. So what this sum of x1 squared would look like, sum of x1 squared is equal to 12 squared plus 12 squared plus 14 squared, 12 squared plus 12 squared plus 16 squared. Okay, so it's the sum of all the squared values. 12 squared, 144, plus 144. I don't know what 14 squared is, not off the top of my head, but we square each of these values, you add them up. So I'm gonna say that's common mistake number 1. People wanna just square the actual sum, but it's not the square of the sum. It's the sum of the squares. I'm sure you really like that. Let me say that again. It's not the square of the sum, it's the sum of the squared values. So see how I take the sum of all the squared values rather than squaring the sum. I don't know if that helps, but that's going to be a common mistake. Please be careful there. So if you look here, where did that 934 come from? Well, that's 16 squared plus 12 squared plus 13 squared plus 13 squared plus 14 squared. Where did that 955 come from? It's not 7. So, the 75 is just these, all the number of years of education for Latino added up. That's 75. But we don't square the sum. We take the sum of the squares. So 11 squared plus 12 squared plus 12 squared plus 13 squared plus 16 squared plus 11 squared is equal to 955. And then the next bar total is just that's our total mean. Again, can't take the mean of means, add up all the values, divide by 23. Okay? So that's the setup. Once you have that, you're ready to fly. So let's start with our calculations. I'm just going to go back here so you can see. So the sum of squared between is equal to the sum of all the number of cases in the sample times the sample mean for K minus the total sample mean squared. Nothing new here. I'm just rewriting the equation. I'd like you to start with writing the equation out too, because it's going to help keep you in order. Okay? So